Just let me accept those students for arrive late. Okay. The topic for today, it will talk about, as we mentioned, the networking. Mostly, it will talk about the network types, the architecture, the core network components, and we will know the basics of how the huge or big companies are running, or are designed from what exactly. This is the part of the infrastructure management that we are talking about, which is the networking. Let me just. Okay. We will talk about that part, the networking parting as a phase, and then we will move to the storage and compute to cover the rest of the, and then we will cover the data center as well to cover the main basics of the IT infrastructure management. Also, we will mention, or we will study later on about the availability, performance, security concepts that are continuously should be done through the process from A to Z until reach high or apply high standards of the security or availability on our network. If we are developing or designing a network, we will apply high indicators or strategies to offer availability or security or high performance for the network. We will talk about the networking blocks. Let me. Sorry for this one. Okay. Just a second, because I have an issue with the pointer here. Give me a second to fix that issue. I have an issue here. Give me a second, just. Okay. We'll talk about the network buildings block. Just clear it. Sorry for the error, because I have an issue with the my laptop a little bit. Okay. All of you, or most of you, they studied in the introduction to computing or other courses the OSI reference model, which is was the basic model for designing the communication or designing the network, even internet or any local network. It consists of 7 layers, the starting from the physical data link, networking, and transport and session presentation application layer. Let me just shift here, because I have still I have issue here. Just give me a second. I'd like to try to fix it. I will just disconnect the screen. Okay, now it's better. Okay, as we mentioned, we have 7 layers for the OSI reference model, starting from the physical and ended with the application. Each layer has its own functions, and maybe it has some protocols. The physical layer, it will consist about cabling. You can sense those things. If we are talking about UTP cable, cabling, patching, whatever, anything we can touch, this is a physical, should be, listed under the physical layer. Data link, like the internet card, network card, Wi-Fi, those, the ATM, those tools that assist or create the connection, those are, we call them data link, or should be listed in the data link. We have the network, which is responsible for addressing and detecting the errors for the for the communication, session, and presentation. Those two layers are responsible to start the the session between the source and the destination, and offer the security, if there is a security between them or not. So we will cover, inshallah, the session layer and the presentation layer, because they are mostly important in developing any network. The application layer, it's the top layer, which is, it has the application itself. For example, we have a WhatsApp. The WhatsApp or Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever, those are applications. Those applications should be listed under the application layer. But if you send a message in WhatsApp, after selecting the contact or the person who you would like to contact him, you will identify that person. If you start chatting him, this is your chatting, or the text will move between you and him. Normally, you can read these sentences, or all chatting will be encrypted. This is on the top of the chatting. This is done through the presentation layer. The session, it will make your status and his status online to communicate. Online means that the session has been created. Then the transport, by which protocol that you are using to send those data that you prefer, or that text. And then the network, it will use the IP, the source IP, and the destination IP, and etc. to deliver the message. The data link will change the digital characters. For example, you are writing hello, it will convert the hello to be as waves, sound waves, or electrical waves, to go through the cable. That cable, it will be listed under the physical. This was a summary of how can we chat in WhatsApp by using the OS model. And this is mostly what's done in other applications. Okay, the session layer. The session layer provides mechanism for opening, closing, and managing a session. So there are three functionalities for the session layers. It's responsible for opening, closing, and managing a session between end user application processes. مثلا الVPN is listing the session layer implemented in VPN protocol. It's used or uses the PPTP or L2TP. Normally, if you add the network in the Wi-Fi, you will select what's the connection or the session layer protocol. You will select if you are using PPTP or layer 2P. Those are the protocols which are under the session layer. Okay. ما هو الVPN? Virtual Private Network. Virtual Private Network, it's a private network. نفس البرامج VPN اللي تستخدمونها. Normally, it's create a secure communication or secure channel between the sender and the receiver through the normal network. What does that mean? أنا عندي الآن هذا الآن destination B, and then I have the A. هنا بيمر الاتصال من راوتر إلى راوتر إلى راوتر آخر. etc. If I send any data, it will go that track until reach P. But this message, it may not secure enough. By using a virtual private network, this means that I'm creating a connection between A and B. And this is a secure connection. No one will be able to log into it or try to spy on this connection because it's already secured and encrypted on the virtual LAN, on the virtual network. يعني إنشاء شبكة ظاهرية باستخدام الوسائل أو الأدوات اللي موجودة في الشبكة العادية. يعني أنت الآن sometimes you are creating a VPN to offer a secure connection between you and one server in UK. اتصال VPN ما بينك وبين سيرفر في اليوكي يمر خلال اتصالك STC وخلافه أو شركات أخرى, but this connection is totally secure. No one will able to know what did you request from the destination. هذه بالعادة تستخدم وين؟ في اللان to connect a local LAN. يعني مثلا أنا برا العمل هنا عندكم في الجامعة اللان أو عفوا في شبكة جامعة. شبكة الجامعة it's only for employees inside the university. Sometimes during the pandemic خلال أزمة كوفيد they created a VPN to allow you to access the university network through the VMware. Most of the students, they are using the VMware to access the, let me say, just a second, okay, to access the university network. إذا ال VPN هل هي أدوات؟ لا, هي تطبيقات وهي virtual. Anything we are saying virtual, it's a strategy or method that we are using to offer a connection to a LAN through through different networks. طبعا VPN uses virtual connection based on IP secure or SSL. Most network providers also offer private VPNs, يعني مثلا STC or mobile whatever, those internet server providers, they offer, يعني ممكن تطلبوا يقول لك اوكي احنا نوفر خدمة ال VPN للشركات. So they are specifying a tunnel to be only for you. And this is they call it a rent or rental line, يعني خط مدفوع أو خط مستأجر. Okay. Virtual private network طبعا use strong encryption and strong user authentication, using an internet for transmitting sensitive data and considered safe. تستخدم الانترنت لعملية الإرسال. VPN tunnels القنوات اللي هو زي البايب اللي موجود البايب. Okay. VPN tunnels are often used. Okay. VPN tunnels are often used for remote access to the LAN by users outside the organization premises. Most common VPN communication protocols standards. طبعا هذا الآن الأغلب 3 protocols. PPTP, point-to-point tunneling protocol. This is for individual clients or server connection. This is also for individual client to server connections. We call it layer 2 tunneling protocol, and IP security for network to network connectivity. So if we are connecting from network to network, we will use the IP security protocol. From client or from individual client to server, we will use one of those protocols. And each protocol has its own specifications. IP security actually it has been designed to be existed in IP version 4 على الايبيات الفيرجن 6 او sorry الايبيات version 6 and it's also implemented in IP version 4. Okay. The presentation layer. We completed this session layer. Presentation layer. This layer takes the data providers by the application layer and convert it into standard format that the other layers can understand. زي ما ذكرنا هي تأخذ البيانات من الابلكيشن لاير وتحولها بشكل رقمي حتى تفهم الطبقات أو layers الأخرى. This is we call the presentation layer. So the first task for the presentation layer is to convert it's to convert the the data that are required to be sent to be understood to the below layers. Many protocols are implemented in the presentation layers. SSL و TLS هذا أهم بروتوكولين يستخدمون. في واحد بروتوكولين وحنا نتكلم فيهم، هذه كانت تجي أسئلة كثيرة فيه في الاختبار الكويز MCQ questions أو ممكن تكتب عنه. SSL و TLS protocols هذا طبعا most common protocols that are used in the presentation layers. What are they? What they will do? We will I will ignore this one because this will talk about the historical of the SSL, which is it was old protocol. It has been designed in 1995 by Netscape company, and they showing how the SSL has been developed. Let us, before studying that slide, let us see this YouTube sketch, which is describing the SSL and the TLS, and then we will come back to those slides. We would like to change the way of teaching to be mixed between or to be merged between the theoretical and some YouTube sketches. Just a second and we will run it. Okay, now we will talk with the short movie from YouTube. We will watch the SSL and then directly we will move to the TLS and then we'll come back to this slide.
SSL on your website is often raised on business forums and webmaster blogs. Often the subject of much confusion, SSLs are actually quite simple, but yet do have huge potential, good and bad. So what is an SSL and what exactly does it do? Let's first look at what an SSL does. In simple terms, once installed, an SSL encrypts or scrambles information sent to and from your website. The obvious question is, why would you want to do this? The reason, quite simply, is security. Imagine you have a form on your website. The form may ask personal questions, or it might even take credit or debit card details. If someone, for example a customer, completes this form, the data is sent from the user's computer to your website. The data is sent pretty much as is. However, if someone, a hacker for example, wished to intercept this data, they potentially could.
هنا يتكلم عن عملية الإرسال. He is saying that if you have your username and password or one website requested you to fill the username or the login details. If you are typing those details and there is, we call it man in the middle, there is someone or hacker on the man between your device and the website. And he is tracking to get the your details. What will happen?
In fact, this would be as easy as being within range of the user's Wi-Fi router with some free software installed on their laptop.
طبعا هنا ذكر نقطة يقول لك هذا ممكن عملية الاختراق تصير سهلة جدا إذا كان يستخدم نفس الواي فاي. يعني عن طريق أي برنامج حق نفس الواي شارك اللي تستخدمونه بإمكانه يخترق معلومات اليوزر نيم والباسورد إذا كان يستخدم SSL.
For example, wish to intercept this data, they potentially could. In fact, this would be as easy as being within range of the user's Wi-Fi router with some free software installed on their laptop. Once they run the software and intercept the data, they would very easily be able to read it. Obviously, if this data includes credit or debit card details or passwords, this is a major security concern. However, with an SSL, things are a little different. The hacker could still intercept the data, but it would be completely unreadable to them. Because of the encryption applied by the SSL, the data is converted into complex code at the user's end and decoded back at the website server's end. At the point the hacker could intercept over Wi-Fi, the data would be unreadable. So how do you know if a site has an SSL? There are a couple of ways you'll know this. Most web browsers will display a small lock or padlock icon if you're viewing a secure site. This is your web browser's way of letting you know you're viewing a secure site. The address of a secure website will start with HTTPS rather than HTTP. Do users care? Overwhelming evidence suggests that they do care. The confidence of knowing a website is protected by an SSL allows users to enter personal information without the worry of that data being insecure. Showing your customers that you have taken the effort and cost to install an SSL shows them that you are conscious of security and that you're concerned about protecting their privacy. Is an SSL required? It very much depends on your website. If you're taking credit or debit card details directly on your site, you may be subject to terms and conditions of privacy and PCI regulations, which require you to transmit data securely. If you're planning to sell via your website on Google Shopping, you'll need to have an SSL. It's also important to note that Google's official webmaster guidelines do clarify that having an SSL is a ranking factor, and as such, your website will perform better on Google search if it has an SSL installed. What are the dangers? Whilst having an SSL is almost a no-brainer, it's very important to have your SSL installed properly. All pages of your website should perform a 301 redirect to the new HTTPS address, and you should also take actions with your Search Console and Analytics accounts to account for the changes of the address. Remember, changing your website address to HTTPS is effectively as dangerous as moving your website to a totally new address and should be handled with extreme care. You found this video useful?
Okay, now he mentioned for the dangerous things for the SSL, and it has been designed to offer a security encryption, but it's not that secure. To be honest with you, it was secured at that time, 1995, when it existed, but later on, because the hacker has the ability to get the encrypted data, it was between two terminals. By using some softwares, it was easy for him to detect the password or the login details, and the page he may track نفس الآن الصفحات المشابهة للموقع الرسمية similar for Abshir, wherever, they has been hacked already. But if you are looking for the looker, it's not there. HTTPS, it may not there. They are using a fake addresses or fake mask for the websites. Let us talk about the TLS. What's the TLS?
Hello, today I want to explain what is TLS. When you don't use TLS and you work without encryption, then you have a normally web browser surfing on a server, and when you don't use SSL, the formally name of TLS, then you will work unencrypted. In the browser, you can see it when you see HTTP only without an S, it's not encrypted, and then it's absolutely easy for an attacker to get your data and to read it or to modify the content. What is TLS? TLS stands for Transport Layer Security, and it works on top of the TCP protocol. It's for encryption of the secure data, and it works with a third partner in the connection. You have a certification authority, and the web browser and the server gets an
يعني الآن an encryption طبعا اللي يقول لك شهادة المصداقية أو certificates. Those certificates are using the so there is third authentication websites or third terminal to create the authentication. They are using the public key, private key, and etc. Different techniques of encryption. These are TLS.
Individual trusted certificate. And when you start a connection from the web browser to the server, then they will handle out a secure key for this data connection based on the certificate and the individual key. And then the connection is absolutely encrypted, and you can see it on the top of the browser. When you see HTTPS, it's a secure connection with TLS. And we have different protocols in the communication area which use TLS2, like SIP-IS, S for secure SIP, or H323 TLS connections for IP telephony, or LDAP-S for databases, or DTLS for WebRTC. And when you have an encrypted connection, then the attackers can get the data, but they don't have the key to read this. And so you have a absolutely secure connection, and that's it. Thanks for listening today. See you. Bye.
Okay, we will go back to the our slides. Let me just, before going to the slides, let me show you that screen from okay, this is the Ahli page, Ahli Tadawul page. If I press the locker here, if I press it, I will see this window. By pressing more, what's the type of the encryption? It has been, or it uses the TLS. If you see the mouse here, it's showing that the encryption is TLS. Some websites, you may find SSL. SSL, it offers a security, but these days, it's not that much enough. So any financial websites or whatever, they are seeking for the, for high security. This is the certificate. If you check the certificate information, you will see طبعا هذا to whom it may created، إلى من أنشئت، هذا العنوان الخاص بصاحب السيرتيفيكيت. منو اللي أنشأها؟ شركة Interest Incorporation. They create the certificate, and this the DNS, and it has been there. The public key information, it's a huge public key they are using, and to download the certificate in PMA, wherever. So those are informations. This means that any communication, even between you and the bank, no one will be able to track it, whatever, because all the data which is encrypted, you have private key that you are using for encryption, and etc. It's a long story, but this is the difference between the SSL and TLS. This is just to keep it in your mind. Who is responsible to create the secure connection? It's a presentation layer. Just keep this in your mind. So I spent more time to add other resources to keep the picture clear for you. So presentation layer are responsible to create the communication secure, to make the communication secure by using the SSL or TLS protocol. Okay, the SSL means or stand for secure circuit layer. The TLS transport layer security. We can identify the websites if it's secure or not by tracking the S. So if the site in both TLS and SSL, if that website has been encrypted, you will notice that it has the S code, including plus the locker picture as well. So we have two things to identify if this website is secure or not, by checking the S in the address and the locker picture or locker icon in the address link as also. TLS relies on an application capable of handling the protocol like a web browser. Okay. Network virtualization. احنا الآن عرفنا اللي هو عملية ال TLS وال SSL and how are they secure. نتكلم الآن عن كلمة virtualization. قبل لا نبدأ لأن راح نأخذ أشياء كثيرة في كل المحاضرات القادمة in most of the future lectures we will take the concepts of virtualization. Virtualization mean that there is no need to buy tools or hardware. The alternative way is I will use an application that let me control or let me do the same as with the hardware doing. معنى آخر كلمة الفيرتشواليزيشن تعني أنا لا أحتاج أني أشتري أجهزة إضافية كهاردوير كقطع. لا، بإمكاني يكون عندي برامج، بعض البرامج تقدم وتقوم لك بنفس عمل السويتشز، بنفس عمل الفايروولز. لما يقولك أنا عندي فايروول، الفايروولز there are two types. في يجي جهاز كهاردوير وفي ابلكيشن. انت مخير على حسب احتياجك، تقول ممكن احتاج هنا virtualized application. الvirtualized اقل تكلفه. بعطيكم مثال اخر. I'll give you another example. Who has a website؟ من عنده صفحه انترنت؟ اللي عنده يرفع يديه يا شباب. Or take the mic. If you have any website, just take the mic. Okay. ما في أحد. طبعًا عملية web sites it will cost nothing to be honest with you through the I mean ما راح تكلف كثير، يعني ممكن تصل إلى 20-30 ريال قد تكون يعني في الشهر، أو ممكن بعض المواقع يقدم لك إياه ب100 ريال تأخذ لك موقع طول السنة. إذا أنت احتجت storage زيادة، مثل قال لك أنت لك 10 جيجا for example to store your website contents or folders. If you wish to have extra, let me say storage. Okay, some of you they are using a free website. If you need extra storage space، احنا اللي نعرفه بالعادة لما نقول الآن extra storage نقول إما فلاش ميموري أو هاردوير أو CD أو whatever. طيب هم الآن لما أنا حجزت عندهم and they gave me 10 giga. Does that mean they are specifying a hardware or that has capacity 10 giga to be for me only? No. You will say they gave me a quota for giga from a huge hardware. If I requested to extend it, they may accept it and they may give me an extra or they increase the quota. هذا اللي بيصير. هم الآن يعطونك مساحة وتطلب زيادة بيزيدون لك، ما ركبوا لك هاردوير آخر، لا هو في بس في البرمجة في عملية الكوتا they increase the capacity. لأن عملية الزيادة صارت بشكل برمجي we will know a lot of things of the virtualization. هنا خلونا الآن لما نتكلم عن اللان نقول virtual LAN. هنا الآن شبكة الجامعة نفترض أو الكلية. أنت الآن شابك كلنا رابطين في سويتشات، يعني الغرفة هذه it has a switch and the another room has a switch and those computers has switches. The virtual LAN means أنا ممكن لما أعطي الآي بي للأجهزة أعملهم sub networks، أعرف الجهاز الآي بي إنه هذا في الشبكة الأولى وهذا في الشبكة الأولى، الجهاز الثاني أعطيه آي بي شبكة ثانية، والجهاز هذا أعطيه رقم 2 شبكة 2 وهنا الشبكة 2 وهنا الشبكة الأولى في التعريف في السبنت ماسك في الادرسنج. So this means wherever the devices in the actual things they are located in different place but they are under the same network. ايش فائدة تقسيم الشبكة؟ علشان لما يرسل أحد الأجهزة لجهاز داخل الشبكة ما يحتاج يروح لكل الأجهزة اللي في الشبكة اللي كامل في الشبكة العامة، لا يروح فقط للشبكة الفرعية اللي هو موجود فيها. So the virtual LAN it's a technique enable logical grouping of network nodes on the same LAN. يعني كأني أعمل group of the computers to be in one LAN, which are located in different switches or different locations in the same, let me say, in the same area. What I have to do, or what's the devices needs to, or able to do it, this configured on network switches. We can configure the switches to do that and operate the, and it's operated under the Ethernet level. يعني في الإيثرنت في الإعدادات حقت الإيثرنت نقدر نعملها في عملية السبنتنج والأدرسنج. أوكي. الVLN الVLANs إيش ميزاته؟ تسمح أو allow segmenting تقسيم أو تجزئة network at the data layer, allow end stations to be grouped together even if they are not physically connected to the same switch, can adapt قادر على التكيف to changes in network requirements and allow simplified administration. النقطة اللي بعدها enhance security by preventing traffic. تمنع traffic في الفيلان لأن أنا كل ما أقلل عدد الأجهزة أقلل عملية الترافيك والكوليجنز اللي بتحدث. From being so طبعا بمجرد إني أعمل heading it will not be visible for other devices to request them several times, and it will be hidden from them. For virtual LANs to communicate with each other, a router is needed. هل نحتاج راوتر؟ نعم، لأن أنا عندي أكثر من سويتشات وهنا الأجهزة. طيب كيف يتصلون؟ يتصلون براوتر. And this will assist me to deal with it. Okay. VXLAN. الآن في لو لاحظين عند مصطلح الXLAN هذا موسع أكثر. Virtual Extendable LAN is an encapsulation protocol, can be used to create logical switch layer 2 network across routed layer 3. يعني هذا الآن يتعدى على الراوترز، يعني هنا راوتر نفس الفكرة اللي قبل شيء بس مش مستوى السويتشات، مستوى الراوتر يعني صار أكبر شوي. في الحاسب كلية الحاسب فيها راوتر، كلية إدارة الأعمال فيها راوتر، أعمال القبول والتسجيل it has a router. Those routers we call them, if we connect them and make it virtualization, this is we call VXLAN. Can be used to create logical switches layer. Only servers within the same logical layers logical network can communicate with each other. يعني هنا السيرفر ممكن يكون located here, server located here, and they are creating and they may specify. يعني ممكن يقول الجهاز هذا أنا أبغى الأجهزة هذه تتبعني. And this one it may take the rest. Okay. Only servers with the same logical network can communicate with each other. VXLANs are heavily used in multi-tenant cloud environments. Where are using in the multi-tenant cloud environments. هذا الفرق بينه وبين VXLAN VLAN. Virtual Network Interface Card. بعض الأجهزة الآن حتى تعمل اتصال يقول لك أنا أعمل لك كرت شبكة وهمي. كرت شبكة اللي يركب في الكمبيوتر في شيء اسمه الفيرتشوال. إذا أنت كنت تستخدم أكثر من نظام أو أكثر من برنامج يحتاج إنه يعمل كوميونيكيشن أو تستك. على سبيل المثال السيسكو باكيت تريسر أنت ممكن تضع فيه أكثر من جهاز، هو كله عملية فيرتشوال ويعمل لك البينج، يعمل لك أمور أخرى. نفس البرنامج الأباتشي لما تتصل وكل شيء لما تنزله بيعمل لك كوميونيكيشن كأنك متصل في جهاز أو في سيرفر آخر. النتورك يتفاعل على أنه يصير شيء وهمي ويبدأ في عملية الاتصال. Okay. Virtual machines are only aware of a virtual network interfaces controller provided them. Virtual machines running on physical machines share physical network interface card. Communication between virtual machines on the same physical machine are routed directly in memory space by the hypervisor without using the physical network interface. The hypervisor router Ethernet packets from the virtual network interface card on the virtual machine on the physical network interface card on the physical machine. هنا الآن أنا عندي الآن أبدأ أسوي virtual أو هنا مثلا على سبيل المثال هذا الفيزيكال ماشين. الفيزيكال ماشين كأني أنشئ virtual switch وأنشئ virtual machine وهنا virtual machine وكلهم يتصلون في عندي مثلا الآن في الجهاز أضع على سبيل المثال أضع 4 كروت شبكة في إذا كان عندي جهاز. هنا أعمل برنامج أو عن طريق اللي هو هذا نسميه hypervisor application. It has the switch and it may create a virtual machine, another machine. It's only application, and the application I may create a virtual network interface card, and I can control the communication. I can send data to this one, and this one able to send the another one, and etc. يعني حتى أعمل تيست أو عملية إرسال أنا في احتياج أن يكون عندي شيء ظاهري أو عملية تيستينج، مش شرط إني أشتري كروت شبكة كثير، لا ممكن يكون عندي 2 3 وأبد وأنا أبدأ بعد أعمل فيرتشوال. يعني في شيء برامج توفر لك فيرتشوال سويتش وفيرتشوال نتورك انترفيس كارد. So the virtual switch now احنا بما انه طلع من virtual network card، بما انه هو virtual network interface card لابد انه يتصل ب virtual switch. هذا كرت الشبكة الوهمي او الافتراضي اللي انا انشأته عن طريق البرنامج. طيب هذا كيف اربطه في سويتش حقيقي؟ ما يرتبط. نقول لك انشئ سويتش وهمي ايضا حتى يرتبط فيه. This is the المحاكاة او الظاهري السويتش الظاهري we call it virtual switch. So virtual NIC network interface cards are connected to the virtual switches. A virtual switch is an application running in the hypervisor with most of the capabilities of physical network switches or switch. A virtual switch is dynamically configured. Ports in the virtual machine switch or virtual switch are configured at runtime. The number of ports on the switch is in theory unlimited. لأنه برنامج وهمي كم عدد البورتات؟ أبد ما عندك أي مشكلة، استخدم البورتات اللي تبي. Unlimited because it's an application number that you are added. Okay. Virtual switches إيش الavailability؟ يقول لك no cable disconnected، ما في انقطاع كابل لأنه كل عملية virtual. أنت ممكن تكون في الشبكة محتاج هذا، أو لما تبنى مبنى كبير يكون عندك لاب ممكن تحتاج الفيرتشوال سويتش، إنه في جهاز بتخليه كان يقوم بعملية الفيرتشوال سويتش وكأنك تعمل عملية تيستينج، ينشئ لك كروت شبكة كثير وفيرتشوال تيستينج وتعمل اتصال وكل واحد تعرفه تقول هذا الشبكة الاي بي كذا وهذا اي بي كذا وهذا اي بي كذا وهذا اي بي كذا، وتعمل عملية تيست عن طريق راوترز وسويتشز وكل شيء كله فيرتشوال. So this is, it will no need for cabling, no need for auto detecting network speed، ما في حاجة لمعرفة سرعة الشبكة لأنك already على سرعة الجهاز تاعك. No network hubs, router, adapters or cable that could physically fail. يعني ما في أي أخطاء متعلقة بالكابلينج، الكونكشن whatever. If you are نفس Cisco packet tracer, it's similar. This is an application. It's act a virtual connection. You can create an IC, you can add the switches, routers, you can configure those routers, whatever. This is a virtual application or virtual network. Security, no easy way to intercept network communication between virtual machines from outside the physical machine. بما أنه هي داخل جهاز صعب جدا إنه أحد يخترقها لأن هي فيرتشوال منشأة من داخل جهاز، يعني كل أشياء وهمية أو ظاهرية داخل الجهاز للتعامل فيها. صعب إنه أي شخص يأتي من خارج المنظومة أو خارج الجهاز الفيزيكال يحاول يخترق الجهاز. على سبيل المثال أو لتوضيح الصورة، you are creating a network in Cisco Packet Tracer. هل أنا من جهازي أستطيع أني أصل إلى شبكاتك اللي أنت أنشأتها في Cisco Packet Tracer واخترقها؟ بتقول لي مستحيل. No way, because no physical connection. That's it exactly. يعني بعض الشبكات ممكن تحتاج عملية النتورك والphysical connections, so you may prefer the usage of virtual networking. يعني احنا الآن لو عندنا على سبيل المثال ليش احتاجنا مثلا طلاب، مش منطقي اني احضر كرت شبكة وجهاز وراوتر وسويتش لكل طالب او ممكن راوترين. لا، في شيء اسمه virtual applications يعمل لك التستنج وكل شيء دون شراء الهاردوير ونفس الفانكشناليتيز. اوكي، software defined networking. Let us move just to some YouTube sketches and we will come back to continue for the SDF or SDN, sorry. Let us go to the just a second.
Then you have a normally web browser.
Okay. This an example of what's the network virtualization mean, and then we will see the NFV, and then we will move to the software defined network, and we'll come back to the slides directly.
Our users connect to each other and to different services by using communication networks. Large and complex infrastructure continuously evolving that are made up of multiple nodes, components, and links. A network has a strong dependence on hardware, that's to say, on the physical equipment. This characteristic makes it a very rigid and expensive infrastructure to operate. Making changes to it, to evolve or to make the launch of new products and services possible, often involves long periods of time. The inclusion of new functionalities is delayed by the need for economies of scale in order to manufacture the specific network hardware, as well as by the long standardization processes between the vendors and operators. What's more, the very complexity of the network makes it hard to introduce changes from the perspectives of management, configuration, and control. In this situation, we need to transform the network to make it a much more flexible, nimble, and moldable infrastructure. The network must be able to adapt in a better way to the quick pace imposed by the evolution of the digital world. To that end, we have network virtualization as a significant lever for transformation. Network virtualization is composed of two technologies, NFV and SDN. Virtualizing the network consists of separating software from hardware and network equipment so that network functionalities become independent of the physical equipment supporting them. As all functionalities are found in software and not in the physical machines, the same server can be used for several purposes depending on the software installed on it. As functionalities reside exclusively in software, it is possible to package each network function in one or more virtual machines and to decide where to execute them. This is what's known as Network Function Virtualization, or NFV. This new concept is now feasible because a set of advances in general-purpose servers has managed to increase by an order of magnitude the performance that software can achieve in the handling of data. These advances have turned commercial off-the-shelf servers into the ideal candidate for network virtualization, owing to the significant economies of scale they represent. This is not a trivial process. Hardware resources must be allocated with great care in order to achieve high and predictable performance so that virtualized network functions can work at the same speed as traditional network functions. At the same time, those network functions must be interconnected with each other in a coherent way
in order to provide network services. These interconnections can be managed from a centralized point. The centralization of the control plane is what is known as software-defined networks, or SDN. And what advantages does this new concept bring? It will be possible to install various network nodes on the same infrastructure, so it will be possible to share capacity among them. Thus, when there is a change in demand, instead of purchasing new network nodes, we can change the software to balance the capacity according to needs in a dynamic way. At the same time, from the point of view of management and investment, virtualized network functions will be more efficient than traditional ones. As this technology is gradually installed, the network will become a moldable infrastructure in which it will be possible to deploy functions on demand.
Okay. I think it's clear now, until now, regarding to the network virtualization. Okay. We will, inshallah, just come back to the slides, and then we will move to the remaining sketches in the YouTube after completing this part. Let me just end the share. Okay. Let me just share my screen again. Okay. So the software-defined networking, this is another functionalities for the virtualization. Software, or the concept of SDN. لاحظوا معنا ترى الرموز are noisy. في رموز كثيرة. ال SDF وال S again. Okay. We have several رموز. We have ال MFV, ال SDN, and others. So just focus on them because you may ask about them. There is a concept called software-defined networking. What's that concept means? This means the SDN, or software-defined networking, allows networks, تسمح للشبكات to be defined and controlled لتعرف ويتم التحكم فيها using software external the physical networking devices. باستخدام التطبيقات أنا أقدر أتحكم بالشبكة بتعريفه ومثلا مراقبتها. أتحكم بالأجهزة مش مباشرة من الجهاز، لا، عن طريق تطبيقات بعيد، ممكن يكون أونلاين، يعني نفس الريموت ديسكتوب، أدخل على جهاز معين وأعدل فيه. So those ones are, or this technique we call it SDF, or sorry, SDN, software defined networking. So software defined networking means that applications allows the networks to be defined. تسمح لتعريف والتحكم بالشبكة by using عن طريق استخدام external software which is it existed out the physical networking device. طبعا في لها عدة أشكال عملية التحكم في شيء or different physical network switches. 3 تصاميم: hierarchical and complex and secured. So a set of physical network switches can be programmed as a virtual network, even hierarchical style, complex, secured. A virtual network can easily be changed without touching the physical network components. يعني يمكن تغييره. For example, here we have the SDN controller, which is the application. For example, I have those switches. They have been connected as a mesh network. mesh network تعني كل switch مرتبط بالسويتشات اللي أقل منه في المستوى. Look, this one, it's connected to different switches. وهذا أيضا is linked to all other switches. And each switch is connected for PCs. This to make the availability. So the SDN controller هذا application يتحكم في سويتش، عملية مثلا ترافيك، بيقول لا أنت البيانات تطلع من هنا سويتش الأول، البيانات الثانية تطلع من سويتش الثاني، ما يخلي عملية على السويتشات، هو يتحكم بالمسار. انفصل المسار هذا بيحكم بالمسار الثاني كأنه ليدر. So this is the SDN كنترولر. هذه فائدة السوفت وير. لما تركب الأجهزة فقط تعملها خلينا نقول بشكل سيمبل بدون في مثلا لود بالانسر ولا خلينا نقول أي devices SDN controllers whatever these applications if you did not use them إذا ما استخدمتهم بيكون عندك الكونكشن بطيء لأن ممكن السويتش يبدأ يفحص وله ميموري ولازم تكون مواصفات السويتش عالية. نفترض ان مواصفات السويتش محدودة يعني مش ما عنده ميموري كثيرة بينما نزلت برنامج او كمبيوتر سيرفر هو يعمل التحكم اي بيانات تجي عندي انا وانا اعمل له فرز الجهاز. So an external data which is it comes to the SDN he will sort it, he will check which track and then he will let the connection to go from this track. لأن هذا بيكون مميزاته أعلى هو التطبيق because it's already installed on the computer. Then the analysis the process whatever he will do it and then he will take a decision that controls even the connection whatever and to make the يعني مثلا عندنا احنا الآن البالانسر similar عشان يوزع اللود على الأجهزة بالعمليات we are using a balancer. So those are different techniques which are existed in the big companies or big network around the world. Okay. SDN can be controlled from a single management console. Provides open applications, APIs, that can be used to manage a network using third-party software. In SDN, the distributed data plane devices are only forwarding network packets based on the ARP or routing rule that are preloaded into the device by the SDN. يعني هو المتحكم. This allows the physical devices to be much simpler and more cost effective. Okay. Network function virtualization. احنا خلصنا من SDF. الآن نبدأ بالNFV وزي اللي ذكرناه في مقطع اليوتيوب اللي عرضناه عليكم قبل قليل. خليني بس أتأكد المقطع الثاني إيش اسمه. Just a second. Okay. NFV. Before starting to this one, let us watch the YouTube sketch here, which is explaining the NFV, and then we will come back to add some comments on it. Just a second. Let me end. خليني بس أشارك المقطع الآن معاكم. Okay. Here it will talk about the NFV network. Just a second. Network function virtualization. Okay, let me run it. Okay. And then we will come back.
Many service providers go beyond simply providing network connectivity for their enterprise customers. They also offer additional services and network functions like network address translation, firewalls, encryption, domain name service, caching, and others. Traditionally, these network functions were deployed using proprietary.
هذا كله أدوات العالم يشترونه. النتورك سابقا كانوا يشترون كارير جرانت نات، الفايروول، الدي ان اس، دي بي اي، الانكريبشن، whatever. Those are hardware that are mostly are used to be or purchased. And now we will see how this has been developed.
Proprietary hardware at the customer premises. This approach provides additional revenue, but deploying multiple proprietary devices is costly and makes upgrades difficult. Every time a new network function is added to a service, a truck roll is required to install the dedicated hardware. Service providers began exploring ways to reduce cost and accelerate deployments through network function virtualization. Network function virtualization, or NFV, decouples functions like a firewall or encryption from dedicated hardware and moves the function to virtual servers. Instead of installing expensive proprietary hardware, service providers can purchase inexpensive switches, storage, and servers to run virtual machines that perform network functions. This collapses multiple functions into a single physical server
reducing cost and minimizing truck rolls. If a customer wants to add a new network function, the service provider can simply spin up a new virtual machine to perform that function. NFV refers to the strategy of virtualizing network functions, moving from separate proprietary pieces of hardware to software running on virtual servers using standard hardware. Virtual CPE commonly refers to any network function that runs on a virtual machine. Let's take a closer look at how NFV helps service providers deploy network functions. A customer has a network service between their headquarters and a branch office that includes a firewall, DNS, and encryption. Prior to NFV, a separate appliance for each service would have been installed at the customer location. With NFV, the service provider can install a generic server at the customer premises, then use a standard IT virtualization platform like OpenStack or VMware to spin up virtual machines for each network function. Physical CPE is replaced with virtual CPE. The server that runs the virtual machines is referred to as a compute node. The compute node includes software called a hypervisor that manages the virtual machines and the resources for the compute node. In the service provider's data center, a virtualized infrastructure manager, or VIM, manages multiple compute nodes. The service provider also needs to run the EMS software that manages the network functions. The EMS servers are also virtualized and run on a compute node in the data center.
In simple words, لو نلاحظ هنا الآن عندنا في الشركات يقول لك الآن شرى السيرفر x86 سيرفر وعمل فيه installing للابلكيشنز الفيرتشوال ابلكيشنز that are acting the firewall DNS encryption واللي يتحكم اللي هو الهايبرفايزر فيهم هنا وهنا. في السيرفرز اللي موجود هنا شيء اسمه الداتا سنتر عمل فيه الدي ان اس الفايروول اساس الكمبيوت والفي ام كنترولر. So this is how طبعا هذا الان كيف وفرت how is it that one save the money especially if I'd like to make an upgrade. Imagine that 2 years ago I bought a firewall and this year there was a need to upgrade it, but the current one I have to purchase a new one. The new one may not fit the existing other hardwares, so I have to reconfigure them or may purchase another devices. يعني ممكن تكون قطعة اشتريها احتاج اطورها ولكن تضطر او تلزمني اني اشتري قطع اخرى لاجهزة اخرى. هنا يقول لك لا الاوبشن نزل سيرفر ونزل فيه تولز وخلي السيرفر يكون فانكشناليتيز معينة. So we can distribute the task among the servers. يعني عندي database server أنا أشتري servers 3 database servers أعمل له أنزل فيه applications معينة وأخصص فيه إنه هذا database server. And the balancer it's similar for I mean protection security server similar. So you can control the process by installing the applications and specify the task for your communications, and it will be very useful for upgrading processes. هذه commonly the most important in the NFV. Let's go back to the slides. Inshallah, we will continue the remaining. Okay, so الآن الصورة واضحة في النقصد بالNFV. So network functions virtualization is a way to virtualize network devices such as firewalls, VPN gateways, load balancer. يعني هذا اللي يوزع اللود روح الجهاز كذا والجهاز كذا. هذا الآن load balancers it's a server I have to update it. There is a hardware and the server I can use it. And NFV appliances are implemented as a virtual machine running applications that perform the network functions. Virtual appliances can be created and configured dynamically and on demand using APIs. استخدام تطبيقات. هذا الآن معطيني مثال لتطبيق السكيورتي. Network availability في مصطلح في النتورك availability وخصوصا اللي يتعاملون مع البنوك أو الشركات الكبيرة. يقولك أنا الشبكة عندي ما أبيها تفصل دائما. معنى الشبكة لا تفصل. This means that the network should be linked to multi-devices. So a network infrastructure should be built in up to layers. لابد انك تقسمها على layers. Workstations, access layer, distribution layer, core layer, access layer or data center, and then servers. Why? To improve the availability and performance, provide scalability, provides deterministic routing, avoids unmanaged ad hoc data streams, provides a high availability because the layering provides multiple paths to any piece of equipment. Okay, the core layer, we will go to those ones. We will start with the core layer, distributed layer, and others. Core layer, this is the center of the network. هذا core layer. This is the center of the network. Okay. Distribution layer, which is the second one. This one, the distribution layer. An intermediate layer between the core layer and the data center, and the access switches in the patch clauses. Combines the access layer data and send its combined data to one or two ports on the core switches. يعني تاخذ البيانات وترسل الواحد من switches. لو نلاحظ ان distribution switches are linked to all switches. linked مع هذا ولينكد مع هذا ولينكد مع هذا. هي الان في حال ان جاء بيانات الديستريبيوشن سويتشز يعرف البيانات هذه متجهه الشبكه كذا، يرسلها مباشره للسويتش، وهذا يرسل للسويتش هذا، وهكذا. وهذا ايضا مساعد بحال لو تعطل ان كيس this one وهذا طبعا هي distribution switch. another one لو تعطل اي واحد في ثاني يقوم بالشغل. انا اذا كنت بيزي وصلتني بيانات احولها للثاني through that track. This is the distribution layer. Access layer connects the workstations and servers to distribution layer. For servers located at the top of the individual servers racks or in a plate enclosure, هذه بنجيها بعدين في أحد المحاضرات. For workstations placed in patches closest to various parts of the building. طبعا احنا عندنا الآن في شيء مصطلح اسمه span layer و leaf layers. سويتشات هذا الهيراركي، هنا السباين او سباين لاير وهنا الليف لاير. سباين لاير انا عندي سويتش زي ما ذكرنا نربط فيه عده سويتشات and this switch and those switches are linked to the workstations or servers. In SDN soft defined network، هذا مصطلح جديد. SDN soft defined network. A simple physical network is used that can be programmed to act as a complex virtual network. يعني في احد البرامج يعني ممكن يتطور عن طريق ال SDN اللي هو self defined network to act multi-complex virtual network, such as the network can be organized in a spine and leaf topology. طيب ايش ميزه spine and leaf topology؟ the spine switches are not interconnected، غير متداخله. Each leaf switch is connected to all spine switches. كانوا الان كلها متصله في جميع السويتشات. If we notice that those switches, the leaf, are connected to all switches, to this one and this one, and similar for this one, this one, this one, and the computers as well as connected to the leaf as well. Okay, each server is connected to leaf switches, to two leaf switches. The connections between spine and leaf switches typically have 10 times the bandwidth of connectivity between leaf switches and the servers. هنا الآن هذا الادvantage. The connection between spine and leaf switches typically have 10 times the bandwidth of the connectivity between the leaf switches and the servers. هنا عندي يكون أسرع ب10 مرات من الكونكشن مع السيرفر. يعني هذا الكونكشن أسرع ب10 مرات من الكونكشن مع السيرفر. البنفيتس هاي سكيلبل، يعني لو بحالة إني بأضيف أجهزة ما عندي أي مشكلة، أنا أقدر أضيف هنا سويتش وأربط مباشرة، ما يحتاج ألغي أجهزة وأضيف أجهزة أخرى، وكلها بتكون متصلة. يعني أضيف سويتش وأبدأ أشبكه مع السويتشات الأخرى. هذا مستخدم في أغلب الشبكات أو في المؤسسات الكبيرة. يعني الجامعة عندنا مطبقتها مثلا سبين أند ليف، ليس كل سويتش متصل براوتر، لا هي تجي سويتشات وعن طريق سبين سويتش وهكذا. يعني من سويتش متصل بسويتش متصل بسويتش ومتصل براوتر. والجهاز يعني أنت الآن لما تستخدم الأكسس بوينت لا تتوقع أن تأتي فقط من one router to one switch to you directly. No, the packet may goes to several switches to reach the router. هذا الآن فائدة عملية اللي هو span and leaf topology. تعمل لك availability. يعني أنت الآن لما تصمم لاحقا أي مشروع لمؤسسة، يعني عندك الأجهزة تتجاوز 100، خلى أعمل عن طريق نفس طريقة span and leaf topology. Okay. طبعا simple to scalable, as we say, just add span or leaf servers with today high density switches. Many physical servers can be connected using relatively few switches. Each server is always exactly 4 hops away from every other servers, leads a very predictable latency. Network teaming, تقسيم network teaming is also known as link aggregation, port trunking, network bonding. Provides virtual network. What's the time now? Okay, we have to run quickly just a little bit. Okay. Provides a virtual network connection using multiple physical cables for high availability and increased bandwidth. This is the system one. We have network drivers, operating system. By using network cards, we connect directly to network cards to another system. Network teaming bonds physical network interface cards together to form a logical network team. Send the traffic to the team destination to all network interface cards in the team. Allows single network interface card, cable or switch to be unavailable without interrupting traffic. يعني لو تعطل أحد كروت شبكة ما عندك أي مشكلة لأن الترافيك already شغال باستخدام other alternative network interface card. Spanning tree protocols, STP is Ethernet level protocol that runs on the switches. يعني البروتوكول يستخدم for doing that, we call it STP. Guarantees that only one path is active between two network endpoints. يعني يضمن لك على الأقل one path active. Redundant paths are automatically activated when the active path experience problems. إذا واجه مشكلة في عملية الإرسال تلقائيا يختار مسار آخر بديل، مسار عشوائي آخر. Ensure no loops are created when redundant paths are available in the network. لما ينشئ مسار آخر يتأكد أن المسار هذا ما يتعارض مع مسارات أخرى قد تؤدي لعملية زيادة الترافيك في النتورك. A disadvantage of using the spanning tree protocol is that it is not using half of the network lines in the network. عيبة أنا أتصل أربط أجهزة كثيرة مع سويتشات كثيرة ولكن نصه يكون غير مستخدم لأني أستخدمها وقت المشاكل. حدثت مشكلة أفعل الخط الثاني، لم تحدث الخط يبقى معدل. مين اللي مسؤول عنه؟ spanning tree protocol. في عملية span and leaf البروتوكول مسؤول عنه STP spanning tree protocol. Rapid spanning tree protocols provides for fast spanning tree coverage after topology changes 6 seconds instead of 30 to 6. هذا مطور ولكنه more speed. اوكي هذا spanning tree protocols. هذا العمل يفترض انه الان انا عندي المسار switch 2 في حال تعطل switch 1 عندي مسار هنا switch 2 يعمل مباشرة للينك 3 و 4. نفترض انه حدث تعطل في الخط هذا تلقائيا او مثلا switch 1 كان شغال سويتش 1 كان يرسل 4 ويرسل 3 وهو متصل ب 2. حدثت مشكلة فيه، تلقائيا 2 تفعل وقام يبدأ يرسل 2 ل 3 و 4. هذا ميك الفائدة حقت spanning tree make the network available. المالتي هومينج in simple words إن يكون عندك أكثر من مزود خدمة. يعني عندك الآن تقول أنا مثلا عندي STC، عندي والله اشتراكين منفصلات عشان لو يفصل واحد استخدم الثاني. أو إنه يكون عندك different internet server providers، تقول أنا عندي مثلا STC وزين، لو يفصل STC بشتغل على زين. هذه we call it multi-homing connection. So 4 options for multi-homing: single router with dual links for a single internet service provider, or single router with a dual links to 2 separate internet providers, or dual routerين each with the same internet of server provider. يعني راوترين ل STC، أو إن يكون راوترين لشبكات مختلفة، يعني شركة مختلفة، الشركة الأولى والشركة الثانية. It's not always guaranteed that multiple network paths actually run on a different set of cables. One cable are typically installed alongside highway and railway track. Cables are used by multiple carrier providers. Network performance في 4 أشياء تقاس. The throughput، كيف نقيس البرفورمانس؟ نقيس عن طريق الثروفبوت والباندويث، عرض النطاق الترددي والإنتاجية، اللاتنسي، الكواليتي اوف سيرفيس، والوان لينك كومبريشن. هذا في قانون اسمه نيلسون لو، يوضح لك تقريبا الكونكشن سبيد في خلال 21. طبعا اتس نوت يوضح انه كل ما لو تزيد سرعه عمليه النقل حتى 2019. نلاحظ هنا الان نتكلم عن سبيد في البيتس بير سكند في عام 2019، ان كل ما له تزيد اكثر and etc. throughput and bandwidth، الانتاجيه والباندويث. throughput is the amount of data that is transferred through the network during a speed time interval. Throughput is limited by the available bandwidth. We can when an application requires more throughput than a network connection can deliver. Quiz in the network components temporarily buffer data. يعني عملية الآن ترتيب الباكت تصير في عملية buffering. Buffer data is sent as soon as the network connection is free again. When more data arrives than the queue can store، إذا الراوتر أو سويتش ما البفرنج حقه امتلأت، أي بيانات تأتي بيعمل عملية لوز، خلاص تحذف لأن ما عاد في مكان تخزن. Okay, latency is defined as the time from the start packet transmission to the start of a packet reception. تعريف اللاتنسي يقول لك هو الوقت المستقطع من، أو خلينا الوقت من بداية إرسال الباكت حتى استلام الباكت. latency dependent on the physical distance، تعتمد على المساحة الجغرافية أو مساحة بينهم، and the number of switches، كم switch تحتاج أن تمر خلاله. rules of thumb and thumbs، طبعا هذا الرمز يقول 6 ملي seconds latency per 100 kilometers. هذا الأشياء الرولز. الوان each switch in path add 10 microseconds to one-way delay. LANs add 1 millisecond for each switch. latency one-way latency the time، هذه التعريفات في عندنا one way والround trip. one way the time from the secure sending a packet to the destination. round trip latency the one-way latency from source to destination plus the one-way latency from destination back to the source. Ping can use to check the round trip latency. Quality of service, I think we just, okay, little slides. Quality of service, it's the ability to provide different data flow priority to different applications, users, or types of data. Quality of service allows better service to certain important data flows compared to less important data flows. Quality of service is mainly used in real-time applications, مثلا video broadcasting, conferences, whatever. او مكالمات الفي صوت اللي هو يقول لك الفي او اي بي تليفوني، كلمة تليفون باستخدام شبكة الانترنت. 4 basic ways to implement quality of service: congestion on management by defining what must be done if the amount of data sent exceed the bandwidth of the network. Packet can either be dropped or queued. Queue management: when queue are full, packets will be dropped. Queue management defines criteria for dropping packets that are of lower priority before dropping the higher priority packets. So it will use the classifications of the packets. If it has lower packet, he will drop it. If it has high importance, he will save it. Let me just link efficiency: ensure the link is used as optimized way for intensities by fragmenting layers, large packet with low quality of service. Traffic shaping: limiting the full bandwidth of the streams with low quality of service and private streams with high quality service. طبعا هذه الآن كلها معلومات مباشرة, direct information. Just read it because it has been given in the exam. It's direct questions. What do we mean with the link efficiency? For example, in the quality of service, ensure the link is used and optimized way, for instance, for fragment large packets and etc. Like that way on the exams. What do we mean with the data compression? It's to reduce the size of the data before it's transmitted over one connection. في خوارزميات ضغط البيانات بعد ما تصبح الباكت كبيرة. في خوارزميات عند الإرسال عبر الوان. في شيء اسمه compression لضغط البيانات حتى عن طريق الوان. This was the end of this lecture. It was a huge lecture and alhamdulillah we finalized it. Just one video to before taking the attendance to end our lecture. It will talk about the SDN, software defined networking, and then inshallah we will take the attendance.
Here, software-defined networking, or SDN, has emerged as the next big thing in the networking industry. Given all the hype, where are we now? Researchers at Stanford are credited with creating the idea of bringing the tenets of virtualization to networking, and thus creating the software-defined networking market. Traditional networking uses integrated hardware and software to direct traffic across a series of routers and switches. The original use case for SDN was to virtualize the network by separating the control plane that manages the network from the data plane where traffic flows. There's a smart controller running specialized software that manages all network traffic in the data center, and a series of routers and switches that forward packets of traffic. Virtualizing the network comes with advantages. Networks can be spun up and down dynamically, they can be fine-tuned for specific application use cases, and security policies can be installed on each individual network. Today, the SDN market has evolved, and it's breaking out of the data center. SDN is being used in the wide area network to control how enterprises connect to their branch offices. This use case, called SD-WAN, uses software to aggregate multiple types of network connections, such as broadband, MPLS, or wireless, to create strong and cost-effective connections. Micro-segmentation is the idea of using SDN for security. Certain networks can be ultra-secure and carry sensitive data. Other networks can be public-facing. So, if a hacker gets into a public-facing web server, they are restricted to the server segment of the network. This limits the hacker's ability to access any other segments, such as secure data center networks. SDN is also used in an area called Network Function Virtualization, or NFV. This is the idea of replacing specialized hardware like firewalls and load balancers with software running on off-the-shelf server hardware. Some vendors are using SDN to connect data centers to public cloud providers, creating a hybrid cloud network that includes microsegmentation or dynamic scaling abilities. Other SDNs could be used to help manage the deluge of traffic from the Internet of Things, segmenting network traffic and helping to organize the data. SDN has evolved from a specific use case to being applied to many different areas of networking. both within the data center, out to the cloud, and in the new world of IoT. As software is used to control the network, it becomes more agile, easier to manage, and it's ready to adapt to whatever use cases emerge in the future.
Okay. Any question يا شباب؟ المحاضرة دسمة. طبعا الجزء الثاني let me just stop the recording while there is no questions.